The conference room was cold, not just from the air conditioning, but from the way my stepson Darnell sat across from me with that smirk on his face. My own son Terrence wouldn't even look at me. They were both dressed in expensive suits my late husband Raymond had bought them with money he didn't have. Money he'd stolen, though they didn't know that yet. Mr. Foster, our family lawyer, cleared his throat and opened the manila folder. Raymond had been dead for 3 weeks, and these boys couldn't wait to get their hands on what they thought was coming to them. "Thank you all for being here," Mr. Foster said, adjusting his glasses. He was a good man, one of the few who knew my secrets. "We're here to read the last will and testament of Raymond Theodore Williams." Darnell leaned back in his chair, confident. Terrence cracked his knuckles, a habit he'd picked up from his father. Neither one of them had shed a real tear at the funeral. They'd cried for the cameras, for the church folks, for Raymond's business partners. But I saw the relief in their eyes when they lowered that casket into the ground. "To my sons, Darnell Marcus Williams and Terrence Raymond Williams," Mr. Foster read, "I leave my business, Williams Construction Company, to be split equally between you." Darnell actually laughed. He laughed right there in that quiet room. "Finally," he said, slapping his hand on the table. "Old man finally did something right." Terrence smiled too, nodding like he'd won the lottery. Mr. Foster held up his hand. "Gentlemen, I'm not finished." But they weren't listening to him. They were already talking about what they were going to do with the company, how they were going to expand it, how they were going to fire half the workers and pocket the difference. "What about Mama Loretta?" Darnell said, finally looking at me like I was a piece of furniture. "She gets the house, right? The little house with the mortgage?" "She can live off Social Security," Terrence added. "She never worked a day in her life anyway." That's what they thought. That's what Raymond had wanted them to think. For 30 years, I'd played the role of the quiet housewife, the woman who cooked Sunday dinners, who sat in the church pew every week, who smiled and nodded and never made waves. Mr. Foster's voice cut through their celebration. "As I was saying, there's more. The business comes with certain obligations." "Obligations?" Darnell's smile faded just a little. "Raymond Williams has debts totaling approximately $4 million. These debts are tied directly to the business. Tax fraud, unpaid contractors, falsified loans from the Small Business Administration. The FBI has been investigating for 6 months." The room went silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. "What?" Terrence stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "That's impossible. The business is worth at least $10 million. "The business assets are worth that much, yes," Mr. Foster said calmly. "But the debts exceed the assets. Whoever inherits the business inherits the debts as well. That was the structure your father set up." Darnell's face had gone from brown to almost gray. "We'll sell it. Sell the whole thing." "You can't," Mr. Foster said. "The FBI has frozen all assets pending their investigation. And—" He paused, looking at me with something like respect in his eyes. "There's one more thing. The business was never Raymond's to give away." "What are you talking about?" Darnell demanded. Mr. Foster pulled out another folder. This one was thick, full of documents. "Williams Construction Company is owned by LJ Enterprises, a holding company that has owned it since 1995. Raymond Williams was merely the CEO, a position he held at the pleasure of the actual owner." "Who owns it then?" Terrence asked, his voice shaking. Mr. Foster looked right at me. "Mrs. Loretta Jean Williams, your mother." Before we continue, shout out to Deshawn from Detroit. "We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing." I watched my sons' faces as the truth hit them. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. "That's ridiculous," Darnell said, but his voice had no strength in it. "She's just a housewife. She doesn't know anything about business." Mr. Foster slid a stack of papers across the table. Mrs. Williams has been the primary investor and silent partner in over 40 businesses across the United States. Her net worth is estimated at $47 million. She owns 3 manufacturing plants, 2 trucking companies, a chain of laundromats, and a commercial real estate portfolio that includes the building we're sitting in right now. Terrence grabbed the papers with shaking hands. I watched him read through them, watched his eyes get wider and wider. "How?" was all he could say. So I told them. I finally told them. "Your father and I met in 1965, I said, my voice steady. "I was working as a secretary at a law firm in Chicago. I was good with numbers, real good. I could look at a contract and tell you what was wrong with it in 5 minutes. I helped Raymond start his first business. I used my savings, money I'd been putting away since I was 16 years old. $20,000, which was a lot back then." "But you never worked," Darnell insisted. "I worked," I said quietly. "I just didn't work where you could see me. Raymond was a good talker, a good salesman, but he couldn't manage money if his life depended on it. So I did it for him. I told him which contracts to take, which to turn down. I balanced the books, I paid the workers, I dealt with the suppliers. And while I did all that, I started investing on the side." "Investing in what?" Terrence asked. "Everything. Real estate, mostly. Back in the 70s and 80s, you could buy buildings in black neighborhoods for almost nothing. White folks were running to the suburbs, leaving whole blocks empty. I bought them, fixed them up, rented them out, sold some for a profit, bought more. Raymond never knew because I used my maiden name, Loretta Jean Henderson, LJ Enterprises." I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, I could see the parking lot, the cars lined up. Darnell's BMW, Terrence's Mercedes. Both leased with money they didn't have. "I watched you boys grow up," I continued. "Darnell, you came into this family when you were 8 years old after your mother passed. God rest her soul. I raised you like my own. Terrence, I gave birth to you, nursed you, loved you with everything I had." I turned back to face them. "And you both treated me like I was stupid. Like I was worthless. When Raymond started getting sick 5 years ago, you two started circling like vultures. You couldn't wait for him to die. You talked about me like I wasn't in the room." "What are we going to do with her?" "She'll probably want to stay in the house. We'll have to give her an allowance or something." Terrence had the decency to look ashamed. Darnell just looked angry. "So you lied to us," Darnell said. "For years." "I protected myself," I corrected him. Raymond knew the truth. He knew I owned everything. But he was proud, and I loved him, so I let him pretend. I let him be the big man, the successful businessman. And when he started making bad decisions, when he started cooking the books and taking money that wasn't his, I separated my assets from his. I made sure his mess couldn't touch me. "So we get nothing?" Terrence's voice cracked. "After everything?" "You get exactly what your father left you," I said. "His debts, his mistakes, his consequences." Darnell stood up, his chair scraping loud against the floor. "We'll fight this. We'll get lawyers." "Go ahead," Mr. Foster said mildly. "Everything is legal and documented. Mrs. Williams has been paying taxes on her businesses for 40 years. Every contract is signed and notarized. You can spend money you don't have on lawyers who will tell you exactly what I'm telling you now. You have no case." "So what happens to us?" Terrence asked quietly. That was the question, wasn't it? What happened to my boys, my ungrateful, arrogant boys who thought I was nothing? "The FBI will likely file criminal charges against Raymond's estate," Mr. Foster said. "They may pursue clawbacks of any money he gave you in the last 10 years. The cars, the down payments on your houses, the credit cards he paid off, all of it could be considered proceeds of fraud." Darnell's face had gone from gray to a sickly green. "They can't do that." "They can and they will," Mr. Foster said. "Unless—" He looked at me. This was the moment I'd been planning for 5 years, ever since I realized what Raymond was doing, ever since I knew he was going to leave my boys with nothing but trouble. Unless you're willing to accept my help, I said. What kind of help? Darnell asked suspiciously. I sat back down, folding my hands on the table like I'd seen Raymond do 1,000 times in business meetings. I'll pay your father's debts, I said. All $4 million. I'll settle with the FBI. Make restitution to everyone Raymond cheated. I'll clear the family name. Hope flickered in Terrence's eyes. Really? On one condition, I continued. You both come work for me. Real work. Not sitting in an office pretending to be executives. You'll start at the bottom of one of my businesses, minimum wage. You'll learn what it means to work hard, to respect people, to earn what you have. Minimum wage? Darnell laughed, but it was a bitter sound. We have mortgages, car payments. We can't live on minimum wage. Then you'll lose your houses and your cars, I said simply. That's what happens when you can't pay your bills. That's what would have happened to thousands of families if your father's fraud had gone unchecked. The contractors he didn't pay, the workers whose paychecks bounced, the small businesses he bankrupted, they all suffered. Now you'll understand how that feels. This is cruel, Terrence said. This is justice, I replied, and it's more than you deserve. I could walk away right now, let you both go to prison along with your father's name, but you're my sons, and despite everything, I love you. So I'm giving you a choice. Work for me, learn some humility, and maybe, in a few years, you'll be worthy of having something of your own again. Or refuse, and face the consequences alone. The room was silent except for the sound of Darnell's heavy breathing. I could see him calculating, trying to find another way out. There wasn't one. How long? Terrence finally asked. How long would we have to work for you? Until I decide you've learned your lesson, I said. Could be a year, could be 5. Could be never. That's up to you. And what if we refuse? Darnell asked. I stood up and picked up my purse. Then I'll see you in court when the FBI comes calling. I'll testify about every illegal thing your father did and how you both knew about it. Because you did know, didn't you? You knew the money was dirty. You just didn't care. Darnell opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. Terrence just stared at the table. You have 24 hours to decide, I said. Mr. Foster has all the paperwork ready. You can sign it and start your new jobs on Monday, or you can walk away and take your chances with federal prosecutors. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and boys, your father's funeral cost $40,000. The casket, the flowers, the reception at the church. I paid for all of it. So really, you already owe me. Think about that. I left them sitting there, 2 grown men who suddenly realized they didn't know anything at all. Outside, the summer sun was hot on my face. I got into my car, a 10-year-old Toyota that I'd paid cash for, and sat there for a moment. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from relief. For 30 years I'd played small. I'd made myself invisible. I'd let people underestimate me. No more. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my best friend, Ruth, who'd been with me through everything. How'd it go? She asked. They didn't take it well, I typed back. But they'll come around. They don't have a choice. What are you going to have them do? I smiled as I started the car. Darnell's going to work at the laundromat on Jefferson Street. Terrence is going to be a janitor at one of my office buildings. We'll see if they last a week. You're evil, Ruth texted back. I love it. I drove home slowly, taking the long way through the old neighborhood where Raymond and I had lived when we were young. Most of the houses had been torn down and rebuilt. The corner store where we used to buy groceries was now a Whole Foods. Everything had changed, but not me. I'd always been strong. I'd always been smart. I'd just hidden it well. When I got home, my phone rang. It was Mr. Foster. They want to see you, he said. They're still at the office. They want to talk. Tell them to come to my house tomorrow morning, I said. 8 o'clock sharp. If they're late, the offer expires. Will do, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Loretta, I have to say, in 30 years of practicing law, this is the most satisfying will reading I've ever been a part of. It's not over yet, I said. But when I hung up, I allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. My boys were about to learn what their father never did, that respect isn't given, it's earned, and that the quiet woman they'd ignored for so long was the strongest person they'd ever known. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my back porch, watching the sunset. Tomorrow would be interesting. Tomorrow my sons would come to my house, a house I owned outright, no mortgage, and they would have to ask me for help. They would have to admit they needed me. And then the real work would begin. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Williams? A woman's voice, young and scared. Yes? This is Destiny. Darnell's wife, please don't hang up. I hadn't even known Darnell was married. He'd never introduced her to me, never brought her to family dinners. I'd heard about her from church members, heard she was a sweet girl who worked as a nurse. I'm listening, I said. Darnell just came home. He told me what happened. Mrs. Williams, I didn't know. About the money, about any of it. I thought his father was a good man. I thought we were building an honest life. Her voice broke, and I heard her crying softly. I have 2 babies, Mrs. Williams. Twin girls, just turned 3. If we lose the house, if Darnell goes to prison, I don't know what I'll do. My heart clenched. Granddaughters. I had granddaughters I'd never met. What's your address? I asked. She gave it to me, her voice shaking. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. Put on some coffee. Because that changed everything. My boys could suffer. They deserved to suffer. But innocent babies? My own grandbabies? No. That was a different story entirely. As I grabbed my keys and headed back out into the night, I realized this situation was more complicated than I'd thought. And the conversation I was about to have with Destiny was going to determine exactly how much mercy I was willing to show. Destiny lived in a nice house in a subdivision I didn't recognize. As I pulled up, I could see it was one of those new developments with the fancy mailboxes and the homeowners association rules. A BMW sat in the driveway, probably about to be repossessed. She opened the door before I could knock. She was younger than I expected, maybe 28, with kind eyes that were red from crying. Pretty girl. Too good for my stepson, if I was being honest. Mrs. Williams, thank you for coming, she said, stepping aside to let me in. The house was beautiful, clean, decorated with pictures of 2 little girls with ribbons in their hair. My granddaughters. I felt something crack inside my chest. Where's Darnell? I asked. He left, said he needed to think. He does that when he's upset, just disappears for hours. She led me to the kitchen, where she'd already put out 2 cups and a pot of coffee. The girls are asleep upstairs. They don't know anything's wrong. I sat down at her kitchen table. Tell me your story, baby. How did you end up with my stepson? She poured the coffee with shaking hands. We met at the hospital where I work. I'm a nurse in the pediatric unit. He came in with his father. Mr. Raymond had fallen and hurt his hip. Darnell was so charming, so confident. He told me his family owned a big construction company. He took me to nice restaurants, bought me gifts. We got married 6 months later. And the twins? They came a year after that. Darnell said we should buy this house, that he was about to become a partner in the company. He said money would never be a problem. She wiped her eyes. I kept working anyway. I like my job. I like helping kids. But Darnell said it made him look bad, like he couldn't provide for his family. So I went part-time. I sipped my coffee. It was good, strong. This girl knew how to make a proper cup. What do you know about the family business? I asked. Nothing really. Darnell never wanted to talk about work at home. But about 6 months ago, I started noticing things. Bills coming that he said were taken care of. Phone calls he'd take in another room. He seemed stressed all the time. She looked at me with those honest eyes. Mrs. Williams, I need to know. Is my husband a criminal? No, I said, and I saw her shoulders sag with relief. Darnell didn't know what his father was doing. Not really. He suspected, maybe, but he didn't know the details. He just enjoyed the money. What's going to happen to us? I set down my cup. That depends on Darnell. I made him an offer today. He comes to work for me, learns some humility, and I'll take care of his father's debts. But it means starting over. Minimum wage, hard work, no shortcuts. I'll work full-time again, Destiny said immediately. I'll pick up extra shifts. We can sell the house, get something smaller. I don't care about any of that. I just want my girls to be safe. This was the kind of woman I wished my boys had learned from. Strong, practical, willing to sacrifice. Can I meet them? I asked. My granddaughters? Destiny's face lit up despite her tears. Really? You want to meet them? Baby, I didn't even know they existed until 10 minutes ago. Of course I want to meet them. She led me upstairs to a pink bedroom where 2 little girls slept in matching beds. They were beautiful, with brown skin like honey and curls spread across their pillows. One of them had her thumb in her mouth. That's heaven, Destiny whispered, pointing to the one with the thumb. And that's Harmony. Darnell said those names were too churchy, but I didn't care. I stood there looking at those babies, and I felt my resolve shift. I'd been ready to let Darnell suffer, to make him crawl. But these little girls didn't deserve that. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly, so I wouldn't wake them. You're going to keep this house. I own the mortgage company. They'll work out new terms with you based on what you can actually afford. Darnell's going to work for me, but you're going to keep your nursing job. Part-time, full-time, whatever works for you and these babies. Mrs. Williams, call me Grandma Loretta, I said. That's who I am now. And these girls are going to know their grandmother. They're going to come to my house for Sunday dinner. They're going to learn about their family, the real family, not the fake one Darnell pretended we were. Destiny hugged me right there in that pink bedroom, and I hugged her back. It felt good. It felt like something I'd been missing. When I got home that night, there was a car in my driveway. Terrence's Mercedes. He was sitting on my porch steps, waiting. Mama, he said when I got out of my car. He hadn't called me that in years. We need to talk. Come inside, I said. He followed me in, looking around my small house like he was seeing it for the first time. I'd lived here for 15 years, but my boys had only visited maybe 3 times. They always wanted to meet at their father's big house across town, the house Raymond had bought with borrowed money. I'll take your deal, Terrence said as soon as we sat down. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. What about Darnell? He's still being stubborn, but I think he'll come around. His wife called him crying about something. I smiled. That's good. Now tell me about your life, Terrence. Are you married? Do I have more grandbabies I don't know about? He looked ashamed. No, Mama. I've been too busy trying to be like Dad. Dating a lot of women, spending money, acting like I was somebody important. He rubbed his face with both hands. I'm 32 years old and I don't have anything real. No wife, no kids, no actual skills. Dad put me in charge of the company's finances, but I just signed whatever he told me to sign. I didn't even understand half of it. You went to college, I said. You got a business degree. Yeah, and I partied through most of it. Dad paid people to write my papers. I barely graduated. He looked up at me, and I saw my little boy again, the one who used to hold my hand at church. I'm a fraud, Mama, just like he was. But you don't have to stay that way, I said softly. That's why I'm giving you this chance. You're young enough to start over, to build something real. Working as a janitor, he said, but there was no bitterness in his voice, just resignation. "Working as a janitor," I confirmed. "In my downtown office building. You'll mop floors, clean toilets, empty trash cans, and you'll do it well, or you'll be fired." "Will you really let me be fired?" "In a heartbeat," I said. "I didn't build a $47 million business by being soft. You work hard, you keep your job. You slack off, you're gone. That's how the real world works." He nodded slowly. "When do I start?" "Monday morning, 6 a.m. Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty." After Terrence left, I called Ruth. "Two down," I told her. "They're both coming to work." "Girl, I still can't believe you pulled this off," Ruth said. 30 years of playing possum, and now look at you. A whole business empire." "I'm tired, though," I admitted. "Tired of games. Tired of hiding. I just want to be myself now." "So be yourself. You earned it." That Sunday, I went to church like always. But this time, when people asked me how I was doing after Raymond's death, I told them the truth. "I'm doing fine," I said. "Actually, I'm doing better than fine. I'm free." Pastor Jenkins pulled me aside after service. He was a good man, had married Raymond and me 40 years ago. "Sister Loretta, I heard some things," he said carefully, "about Raymond's business, about money troubles." "It's true," I said. "Raymond made some bad choices, but it's being handled. If you need help, Pastor, I'm fine, better than fine, but I appreciate you asking." I hesitated, then decided to trust him. "Can I tell you something in confidence?" "Of course. I'm not who people think I am. I'm not just Raymond's widow. I own 40 businesses across the country. I'm worth $47 million, and for 30 years, I've let everyone think I was just a simple housewife." Pastor Jenkins stared at me. Then he started laughing. Big, booming laughs that made people turn around and look. "Sister Loretta," he said when he could breathe again, "you are full of surprises. Does this mean you'll finally fix that church roof we've been praying about?" "I'll write you a check tomorrow," I said. "But Pastor, I need your help with something else." "Name it." "My boys are about to go through something hard. They're going to be humbled. They might come to you for guidance. When they do, don't go easy on them. They need to learn what struggle feels like." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most necessary ones. Monday morning came. I got to my office building at 5:30 before anyone else. I wanted to be there when Terrence arrived. He showed up at 5:45 wearing old jeans and a t-shirt I remembered from high school. His face was tired. I don't think he'd slept much. "You're early," I said. "Didn't want to mess this up on day one." The building supervisor, a woman named Gloria who'd worked for me for 12 years, showed him what to do. Gloria didn't know Terrence was my son. I told her I was hiring someone who needed a second chance, and she'd agreed to train him. I watched from my office window as my son learned how to properly mop a floor. Gloria made him do it 3 times before she was satisfied. He didn't complain. He just did it. At the laundromat on Jefferson Street, Darnell was having a harder time. He showed up late, argued with the manager, and tried to hide in the back instead of helping customers. The manager, a tough woman named Sharon, called me at noon. "Mrs. Henderson," she said, using my maiden name, "this new boy you sent me is lazy and disrespectful. I'm about to send him home." "Give him one more chance," I said. "But if he doesn't shape up by the end of the week, let him go." "Yes, ma'am." That evening, Destiny called me. "Grandma Loretta, Darnell came home so angry. He said his boss is mean and the work is beneath him." "It's only beneath him if he thinks he's above it," I said. "Tell him to call me if he wants to talk." He didn't call that night. Or the next night. But on Wednesday, my phone rang at 10 p.m. "Mama Loretta," Darnell said. He'd never called me that before. "I need help. I'm listening. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be regular. All my life I've had money. I've had people doing things for me. And now I'm washing other people's clothes, and they're treating me like I'm nobody. You are nobody there, I said gently. That's the point. You have to learn what it's like to be the person you used to ignore. He was quiet for a long moment. There's this old lady who comes in every Tuesday. She can barely walk, but she carries these huge bags of laundry. Today I offered to help her, and she looked at me like I was going to rob her. When I helped anyway, she started crying. She said nobody had been kind to her in so long. She'd forgotten what it felt like. How did that make you feel? Terrible. And good? I don't know. Confused? He sighed. Destiny told me about the house. About you helping us. Thank you. You're welcome. But Darnell, that help comes with expectations. You have to change. Really change. Not just for a few weeks until this blows over, but forever. I know, he said quietly. I'm trying. 3 months passed. The FBI settled their investigation after I paid back everyone Raymond had cheated. It cost me $6 million total, $4 million in debts and $2 million in restitution. But it was worth it to clear the family name. Terrence got promoted to maintenance supervisor. He was good at it, good at managing the other workers and solving problems. Gloria told me he was the best employee she'd ever trained. Darnell was slower to change. He got fired twice, once for showing up late, once for arguing with a customer. But each time, Destiny made him go back and apologize. She made him see that he was hurting his family with his pride. And slowly, painfully, he started to understand. I started having Sunday dinners at my house. Not the fancy catered affairs Raymond used to throw, but real home-cooked meals. Destiny and the twins came. Terrence came. Eventually, Darnell came too, though he was quiet at first. Heaven and Harmony called me Grandma Loretta and sat on my lap while I read them stories. They didn't know about money or business or any of that mess. They just knew I was their grandmother, and I loved them. 6 months after the will reading, I called another family meeting. This time, it was in my living room, with Sunday dinner on the table. I want to tell you all something, I said after we'd eaten. I'm proud of you. Both of you boys have worked hard. You've changed. You've grown. Terrence looked shocked. Darnell looked suspicious. So what happens now? Darnell asked. Are we done? Can we go back to normal? This is your normal now, I said. But I think you're ready for the next step. Terrence, I'm making you the property manager for my real estate portfolio. It's a real job with real responsibility and real pay. Not millions, but enough to live comfortably. You'll learn it. Terrence's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Mama. And Darnell, I'm putting you in charge of my community outreach program. You're going to help other people the way that old lady at the laundromat helped you understand humility. You'll work with churches, schools, and community centers in Black neighborhoods. Help people start businesses, teach financial literacy, give back. Darnell nodded slowly. I can do that. I know you can. Because you're both my sons, and you're stronger than you knew. Destiny squeezed Darnell's hand. Heaven and Harmony played with their toys on the floor, safe and happy. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat on my porch with Ruth. You did good, Loretta, she said. Those boys are going to be all right. I hope so, I said. They've got a long way to go, but they're on the right path. And what about you? What are you going to do now that you're not hiding anymore? I smiled. I'm going to live, really live. I'm going to run my businesses openly. I'm going to mentor other women who think they have to play small. I'm going to spoil my granddaughters, and I'm going to walk into every room like I own it, because usually I do. Ruth laughed. That's my girl. The next Sunday at church, Pastor Jenkins announced that an anonymous donor had given enough money to fix the roof, repave the parking lot, and start a scholarship fund for kids going to college. Everyone clapped and praised God. Nobody knew it was me. But I knew. And that was enough. My sons learned their lesson. But more importantly, I learned mine. I learned that hiding your light doesn't protect you. It just makes you invisible. I learned that real strength isn't quiet, it's confident. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't making people suffer, it's giving them the chance to become better. Raymond used to say that respect was everything. He was right, but he got it backward. You don't demand respect by being loud or rich or powerful. You earn it by being honest, by doing the work, by treating people with dignity. My boys know that now, and their children will know it too. As for me, I'm 65 years old and I'm just getting started. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.